Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Today is Thursday, April 6th. And today is the last day of the trading week since tomorrow is Good Friday. Markets will be closed. And today, we got some pretty shocking, more employment reports, with the unemployment coming in higher than expected. Going over to the economic calendar, this came in at 228,000 initial jobless claims versus 200,000 expected. And the previous report from last week was actually revised up from 198,000 to 246,000. So a huge revise up of like 20%. And on top of that, we ended up coming in about 15% higher for this jobless claims, and our continuing jobless claims, or the total number of unemployed people, came in at 1,823,000, or 1.823 million. And this is the highest that we've seen since December of 2021. So it's been more than a year since we've seen unemployment claims as high as they are. I'll try to find that report. It's way down in here. So the last time that we had more than 1.8 million people unemployed was back in December 23rd, 2021. Now, if we look into the unemployment rate, which is coming out tomorrow while the markets are closed, back in December of 2021, let's see. The unemployment rate, I believe, was 4.2%. In December, let's see, 2021. Yeah, 4.2%. As of the last reading, the unemployment rate was just 3.6%. So if we get, this 4.2% reading like we did back in December of 2021, that would be a huge miss on expectations at 3.6%. So all of this new incoming unemployment data has been very shocking, to say the least. And it just seems to continue to unwind a lot quicker than what I believe most people were expecting. Now, with SPY currently, it is down 0.2%. Let's see, the dollar is up today, surprisingly, with this report. Usually whenever you get recession fears, you'll have the dollar going down. But the dollar has been going down significantly over the past month, so seeing a pop in the dollar isn't too unusual. And then the 10-year treasury rate is at 3.3. So it's basically at the bottom of the balance that it's been in the past month. So people are still buying into the treasuries, which means that they are worried about the economy. And then if we look at the other indices, QQQ is down to 314.30 from 315.92 at close. And I think IWM is actually still positive at 173.90 versus a close at 173.63. But IWM has been the worst performer for the past month compared to QQQ, almost at the highs. And then SPY also at the highs, and then the Dow also at the highs. So makes sense for IWM to at least have a little bit of support, but considering this really bad unemployment report, I could see IWM coming down even further and giving away more of its gains. But let's see. Good morning, Kamala. Good morning, Irfan. Happy Thursday. Happy last day of the trading week. SPY is trading at 406.78 to start the day. Down 0.2%. We got some supports at 406. Resistance all the way at 410. And then more supports at 435, 403.50, and then 403.10. That's the bottom end of the risk range at 403.50 for this week. Now, reaching that, I still think could be a stretch, but maybe coming down to that 406 level, possibly testing that gap up level at 404.35 could be in the cards today. My guess is we'll probably still be bearish. I do think that this was a pretty shocking unemployment report, especially with the revision up 20% for last week's data. I think that could definitely shake the markets up in a really big way. But let's head on over to Robinhood. I had a call credit spread assuming SPY under 410 today. These are up another $78 to just 7 cents a piece right now. I think it's just going to be max profit. So I'm probably just going to hold this one into expiration, likely, and get my extra, looks like $40, $50 of credit for that trade. So for SPY, I think we could test the 406 level today. We were testing it yesterday, but we didn't quite crack it. We went to 405.88, but then ended up bouncing right immediately after. But I do think that we could retest 406, and again, we might test that 404.35 gap up level. So I think I'm going to pile into some of these. They're going for 51, 52, so they're pretty cheap considering we're trading at 406 already. I'll probably buy 8 of them, my usual $400. Let's see. Trade. Not getting filled at 52, unfortunately. All right. Yeah, I don't think I'll get filled there. Well, the bid is at 51, so it's weird that I'm not getting filled for 52. Oh, this is a call credit spread. I had the wrong direction, so that's why it's not filling there. All right. 50, 8 of them I'll buy. I'll probably have to replace the order to 51 or 52 though. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it wants to fill at 51. I keep doing the freaking call credit spread. Okay. Oh, this is the call side. I'm trying to do the puts. All right, so the puts are probably going to be more expensive. Let's see. 52. Oh, they're about the same price, which they should be. For 8 of them. There we go. Now it should get filled at this point. Unless we just flush down really quickly. Unfortunately, I might not get filled here. All right, I'll put in 53. I don't want to go much higher and chase it. All right, I got them in at 53 a piece for a put debit spread, assuming under 406 today. Am I a direction trader? Yes. Direction and price levels based on data. And the data this morning was pretty horrible, so. All right. New options alert. Premium. Just opened a new 406, 407 SPY put debit spread expiring today. 406 at 53. 3 each. All right. Qs is down to 313. The Dow is actually down 0.1%. And IWM actually managed to go negative too. So everything is kind of coming down this morning after this unemployment report. But you're probably going to get some supports at 406, just like we did yesterday. So I wouldn't be too surprised if we bounce a little bit here. But my guess is we could test 404.35 later on today. So if that's the case, this will be max profit for the 407, 406 puts. But we'll have to get there first. All right, we just went below 406 right now. I opened 8 of these at 53. The call credit spreads I opened the 410, 411 ones. Expiring today, those are at 3 cents a piece, so they're basically max profit at this point. Just going to hold those into expiration at 4 o'clock. Not too worried about rebound all the way to 410. The bid ask on these is kind of wide. Lots of indecision at this 406 level. Still, 313 is a pretty important level for the Qs. There seems to be a lot of supports and resistance there. So if that ends up catching a bounce at 313, you might not get the flush below 406 for SPY. But we'll see if the rest of the indices pull back today. The Dow was pretty resilient yesterday. And holding above 334.60. It finally ended up slipping below that today. IWM is back down to 173, so that's still holding the lows at 173, and then the Qs bouncing off that 313 level here again. So I'll keep my eyes on the Qs and SPY and watching those critical levels at 313 for Qs and 406 for SPY. Looks like SPY just fell below 406 again. $409, $411 call. Hopefully that's a call credit spread since yesterday. Otherwise, yeah, that would be definitely max loss on a debit spread. But yeah, I think that 410 level is almost impossible to reach by the end of today. Of course, you know, with it being the last day of the trading week, there's always some possibility that the market makers are going to try to push for it. But my guess, 410 is out of the cards for today. Yeah. Using Robinhood feels so good now that I don't have to pay the fees and scalping. So much easier. Yeah, SPY is the easiest to trade spread options on with the bid-ask spread. You don't have to worry about it eating into your money too much. You do have to worry about it some with Robinhood. They do have wider bid-ask spreads than some brokers. Personally, I would prefer Aries, but I don't have enough capital in Aries to trade with them. But yeah, if you're going to trade spreads for any index, SPY and QQQ would probably be the best. I tried doing the Dow yesterday, DIA, And that really, the bid ask on that really ate into my profits and my losses that I ended up taking on that. If you look at just the volume for Dow right now, DIA, it's only 140,000 so far this morning compared to SPY 3.8 million shares traded already. So probably wouldn't recommend trading spreads on the Dow. I think that, doing regular options could be viable. It sees more than 1 million shares traded per day, so that's enough to trade regular options. But if you're doing spreads, the bid-ask spread is going to get wider because you're toying with 2 different options instead of 1. So probably not going to trade Dow spreads again, DIA spreads. Yes, SPY is an ETF, correct. All right, we just flushed below 406. Costco. Let's see, COST. Oof. Costco has gloomy news about sales. The stock ended up dropping. Let's see, gloomy sales numbers. They usually, let's see. Sales in March declined as consumers made smaller purchases. Shares were off nearly 3% in the pre-market. That's interesting. Yeah, so we are starting to see a little bit of a slowdown in consumer spending as of lately. I think for the February report, consumer spending was only 0.2% higher than it was the month before. So we're definitely seeing some slowdown in that. I do think that is going to have a positive spin next week, though. You're going to have the CPI, Consumer Price Index, or inflation coming in next week on Wednesday. So I do think that could lead the markets to recover a little bit. I think that could be the positive sentiment of next week versus all this negative sentiment that we've been getting from all these horrible employment reports. So I do think that next week we could be in for a small recovery. My guess, though, is we'll actually trade pretty flat next week. I do think that you're going to get a continued pullback with all this jobs data coming in really bad and the recession fears amplifying again. But I do think that next week's CPI report can mitigate some of that fear. I do think that it'll probably lead the market to think that the Fed will, be a little bit more lenient, maybe not hike at the next meeting, which means that the markets could end up going up on that. So I actually took a iron condor for next week, assuming SPY between 400 and 410 after the CPI report on Wednesday. So that option expires Wednesday, and I'm assuming SPY between 400 and 410. Right now it's at 406, so just about in the middle. SPY below 410 for Monday. Well, you have a 3-day weekend, so a lot can happen over that. But I would say getting back to 410 would be a stretch. Maybe Tuesday you could reach 410 again, but Monday I'm not sure. Because you usually do get a rally ahead of the CPI report. And right now we've been seeing a drop for basically the last 3 days, 2-3 days. So we could end up having a slight bit of recovery. I would guess on Monday or Tuesday. So 410 is possible. I would say unlikely, depending on like where we end today. Like if we're ending the day at say 407 and above, I would say yeah, 410 by Monday is possible. If we're ending the day say at like 405 though, recovering 1.25% on Monday, I don't think would happen. These are going for 55 a piece. I bought them for 53, so I'm up $24 right now. Again, I want to keep an eye on QQQ for that 313 level. The rest of the indices are still kind of holding, IWM at least, still holding 173. The Dow is actually down to 333.80. So if you get the Dow pulling back plus QQQ pulling back, SPY would probably end up managing down to like 405.50, 405 maybe. Kind of disappointed with the Dow trade I made yesterday. I was assuming that the Dow would be below 334. If I held that, I would actually be at a profit now, but I was too worried that we would get a recovery overnight. But after today's jobless claims report, that recovery doesn't seem very likely. We're down about 0.5% for SPY right now, 0.4% right now. And Q's is coming down to test 313 again. What's unusual about this is that the 10-year and the dollar are still up with the recession fears. Usually those would go down. And it does seem like the 10-year is actually pulling back. So people might be actually putting their money into the 10-year bond. Currently yielding 3.287. So it's below that 3.3 mark. And then let's check the 2-year yield. 2-year yield for bonds is currently 3.77 or 3.766. So the 210 spread right now is at negative 0.49. So we're not really seeing much of a steepening for the yield curve. Surprisingly, the last couple of employment reports haven't changed the steepening of the yield curve. I would have expected that to be the case, but it's just been kind of flat for the past week. Interesting enough. Looks like Q's just went below 313, so SPY ended up dropping to 405, and then the Dow is still down 0.3%. So yeah, it looks like a pretty negative day across the board. These were going for 60 cents a piece. I bought them for 53. Try to get out at 60 or 65 maybe. We ended up going to a low at 405.68. I'm going to keep QQQ up on this screen over here, so I can keep monitoring that 313 level. Might hedge my position with a IWM put credit spread. It does seem to want to hold that 173 mark as of right now. Let's see, with IWM currently at 173.16. If we do end up holding the lows, that would be 172.50. And I do think that they have a 172.50 strike price to choose from, so could hedge my bets there. Right now, that's paying 15 cents for 35 cents of risk. It's not a bad trade. It's about a 2 to 1, a little bit more than 2 to 1 risk reward ratio. SPY came back above 406 again with Qs bouncing at 313. So I'll keep monitoring. That 313 level would be pretty critical for today, I feel like. And then obviously 406 for SPY. I think if we do get a break down below 313 for Qs though, we might end up filling the gap for SPY to that 404.35 level end of day. And if you're looking at a put debit spread for Qs instead of SPY, assuming that it would be below 313, you're paying 52 cents to assume that it'll drop another 25 cents from where it's trading now. So even that's a pretty good trade, I would say, too. If you don't want to trade SPY, if you want to trade QQQ instead. But I would say that QQQ has fallen pretty substantially the last few trading days since these bad employment reports have come in, at starting at 322 down to 313 already. So it's $9 over 320. It's like 3% that it's already dropped. Versus SPY has dropped from, let's see, 412 to 406, so $6 over 412. It's like 1.5%. So NASDAQ has dropped almost double what the SPY has dropped. Yes, Fed Bullard is speaking at 10 a.m. this morning. Learn ICT technical. Not sure what that is. Oh, using moving averages. I think the most important thing is just looking at price levels and following narrative. That's just the way that I've learned to trade, and it's been pretty successful for myself. I use moving averages sometimes. If I'm looking for something specific, like the price of oil over the past 30 days or something like that, looking into like inflation reports, then I'll use it if necessary, but I don't think that it's something that you have to keep on your screen at all times. I think that the most critical thing for trading is definitely narrative. What is the narrative that the markets are pitching? And right now, the narrative is recession fears, which is going to lead the markets to go lower with the terrible employment reports we've been getting. It could already be priced in to some degree, but then you look at the price levels watch to see if we crack that 313 level. That QQQ always seems to trade around. And then for SPY, see if it pulls back with that down to that 404.35 to fill that gap in from last week. All right, I'll check it out later. Let's see. Those put debit spreads are up 40 right now. The Dow is almost managing down 0.4%. So the Dow is coming down. So if you get the Dow coming down again, and then Q's falls below 313, it's going to be the double whammy that I think will bring us down to the 435 mark. But Q's has to pass up that 313 level first. And it seems to have some decent support there. These debit spreads that are assuming like a $1 move have been really treating me well, but you do end up paying more for them. That's the only issue that I've found is, if you're choosing $1 strike price away from the current price of the stock, you're usually paying between like 45 cents and 55 cents for the trade. So this one I ended up paying 53 cents per spread. So it's definitely on the higher end of what I would usually pay for these. But, you are putting the odds further in your favor if you're choosing a closer strike price versus, setting my strike price down to that 405 level that I'm assuming it's going to go to. I would probably only pay like 30 cents for it or something like that. But the odds for that trade working out are a lot lower than what I'll get for this trade. All right, looks like Q's ended up bouncing at 313 again. So this put debit spread isn't as promising anymore. It doesn't seem like. Bought 8 at 53. So we'll see if Q's can end up managing this rally here. It's at 313.58 right now. Definitely coming off of oversold here when it was below 30 on the RSI. But just because something is oversold doesn't necessarily mean that it has to bounce. Let's see. Topped at 313.70. Now it's at 313.56. So we'll see if we get more selling pressure as we head closer to 314 or not. Hi, Luke. Holding a call credit spread 428 to 430. Jeez, that's a really high strike price. We got a long way for that to go. I would imagine that the expiration date for that's a lot longer than what I got though. Mine is just expiring today, assuming under 410. All right. gold is pulling back with the dollar rising this morning. Let's see. 10 years still at 3.92. Dollar index is at 102 again, 102.10. All right, looks like Q's wants to go to 314 now and break through. I'll wait on this a little bit. Let's see, the other indices, IWM is actually managing to go positive, so that could be leading the risk on. Feelings for today, if that can go significantly positive, probably wouldn't want to be in the bearish trades today. But IWM obviously has been leading the way down as of lately, so there is a caveat to that. All right, these are going for 47 now, 48. Q's is going above 50 on the RSI, so definitely firming up here. Expiration date on May 12th. Yeah, that's a long expiration. XLI. Not sure what that one is. XLI. Industrials, maybe? Oh, is this an international fund? Let's see. XLI. Industrials. Yeah. Industrials would do pretty well typically in a recession. Industrial staples will do better. They will outperform at least, so you won't see as negative performance as you would for like high growth and more risky names. Industrial staples, fast food, healthcare, things that people still need even in a recession would still do well. So XLI could be a good long-term purchase. But, if you're having outperformance of the high growth names like we've been seeing since the beginning of the year, then industrials is going to lag behind that. It's down 1.34, so it's basically flat since the beginning of the year, whereas obviously QQQ is up a shit ton, 19% as of right now. But yeah, it looks like the Dow is actually starting to lead the way down at the moment. So you're seeing a sell-off in industrials and possibly rebalancing into Qs. Which you would think would be the opposite way around, given that we're having more recession fears with this employment data coming out lately. But sometimes the markets can be irrational. A lot of the time they can be irrational, especially on a daily basis. If you wait on it to play out, then it should even out to what it. Let's see. Call credit spreads for 410. These are paying 5 cents now. I opened up at 33, so it's up 168 so far. And then the put debit spreads are down 80. Let's see. Yeah, with QQQ gaining ground, SPY is going to recover some. So, let's see. QQQ, back to that. Trading at 314.70, so almost at 315 after hitting that 313 level. Huge buying pressure there. And IWM is still positive 0.04%. We'll see if we get a pullback for Qs or if we keep on heading up here. I'll hold on to the SPY put debit spread a little bit longer, see if we have any selling pressure. Fill the gap from the morning. Yeah, that could be. Let's see, the gap was all the way at, well, the lows of yesterday was 314, so definitely already filled that gap. So if you're going to get any selling pressure, it would be now. If it wanted to fill the gap and come back down. Yeah, the lows yesterday was 314. Let's see, 314.08 or so. Now it's at 314.71. So it's filled that gap. And IWM is really just not moving much at all. So maybe once IWM chooses a direction here, we'll get a more definitive move for the other indices. It just went negative 0.05, 0.07 now. So maybe if we get a move down for IWM, you'll get a move down for Qs later following that. Pull up SPY again. It's at 406.75. Again, I'm assuming that it'll be below 406 with this put debit spread. Still think that's in the cards for us, but not so sure about the 404.35 level anymore. So I'll probably try to get out of these spreads at somewhere around 55 to 60 cents a piece, assuming we won't end up filling that gap down to 404.35 by the end of the day. All right, these are going for 40 cents, 41 cents, so it's at 100 and about 100 loss here. And Q's looks to be going to 315 right now. So Q's definitely got a good recovery off of that 313 level. Dollar index is still up, but headed back down. Let's see. The 10-year is firming to 3.924, and then the VIX is coming back down to 1930. So the VIX really isn't getting much love out of this. All right. Yeah, I'm going to have to head out of these. Try to get them out at 40 or 45 cents if I can. At least take a little bit less of a loss. It's at 407.25. So if it keeps on headed above this 407 level, that would be max loss by the end of the day. But I'll try to get out if it pulls back to like 406, 406.60 or so. Let's see. Depending on the Qs, obviously, which is leading us up. Let's check in on the call credit spread. These are still trading at 6. But yeah, my assumption, if we're above 407 today, they're getting back to 410 on Monday. Could be on the cards. If we're below like 406, though, I don't think that we'll get back to 410. Let's see. The long term looks like Tesla is still down 0.5%. Let's check the big names. See how they're doing. Apple is only down 0.35. Microsoft down 0.02. And it looks like to be top in here. Tesla down 0.5%. Let's see, Nvidia down 0.15. So all of these seem to be gaining a little bit of ground, at least this morning. Leading QQQ back up to 315 right now. The Dow is the one leading the downside, 0.2% now. All right. Q's just went below 315 again. So we'll see if this pullback continues or It's just a little bit of a fake out here. Got 8 of these at 53. Contemplating getting out at 45. But yeah, now if you want to take a bearish trade for QQQ, it would be a lot cheaper after that bounce off 313. Let's see. It's going for 27 cents, almost a quarter each, to assume it'll go back below 313, that support level that it ended up bouncing on. But that is a $2 move, or let's see, 2 over 313. Like 0.6% down. So it would be down roughly about 1% for the day. After its recent sell-off, it's pretty hard to manage, but yeah, market's starting to come down a little bit. Not very much yet. Not too much as of yet. Ideally, if you're bearish today, you would want to see QQQ back below 314 again. Back below the lows for yesterday. So we got that gap fill, and then if it continues to come on down, then that would be a clear sign that we're going to keep on going down today. And I think we filled the way all the way up to the close yesterday, maybe. Let's see, close was 315.85, so it was actually a little bit higher than what we got at 315.30. But yeah, if you're bearish today, like I am, I think we want to see a flush below 314. Right now it's at 314.60, so still a little bit of ways to go. And then obviously that 313 that it bounced on, you would want to see a crack below that to be like ultra bearish today. What are the odds of theta burn? Just trading flat for the day since it's Thursday. I think that you're going to get large swings in both directions just because it's the last day of the trading week. That's usually what happens on Fridays, and I don't think that today is going to be any different. I think you're going to get wild swings up like we just saw, probably wild swings down, and then just be all over the place by the end of the day. And then guessing where the target, where the price is going to be is pretty difficult, but my guess would be lower for the day. Let's see. You can always check, what is it called? MaximumPain.com. This isn't always accurate, but it can give you an idea of where the market makers may want to push the stock towards. Options for SPY. Expiring today. The maximum pain point is $407. So in order for the market makers or the people that are selling all the options to everybody that wants to buy them, in order for them to reach the max benefit for themselves, they want SPY to end the day at 407. Ideally, that way all the options that they sold to all the people buying them would expire worthless. That way they get to collect the entire credit that they got from all the people that bought them. And then obviously the people that bought them, their options would go to zero and they would lose. So based on max pain, probably 407. But my guess, with the data that's been coming out with all these employment reports, I think we're probably going to head below 406. And then maybe retesting 404.35, but that really depends on where the Qs ends up going. Let's see where the Qs maximum pain point is today. 315, so it's actually slightly higher than where we're at right now, 314.40. So markets may want to keep on pushing to the upside based on where the max pain is, at least. All right, these are going for 45. That's what I was asking for before. We'll see if we touch that, tag that 314 level for Qs first. Or if we end up managing to stay above it. It's at 52 RSI, so I think if you get a bounce, it's either going to be at the 50 RSI or at the 314 level, or just both, I guess. Could be the case. IWM actually ended up slipping down 0.2% now, so that might be what's pulling back the Qs. But IWM is going to have some supports at 172.50 and then 173, so watch out for those price levels there. Put debit spread, assuming Q's under 314, is somewhat cheap right now at 45 cents a piece. But again, that's going to be a pretty solid support with yesterday's lows, and then that 313 level is definitely going to be support that we saw the bounce on this morning. Looks like the RSI is staying firm above 50, but I'll give it probably 10-15 more minutes. Been about an hour since market open. Seems to be some balance at 314.50. So right in that midpoint between 314 and 315 for Qs. It seems like every 50 cents there seems to be some sort of balance between buyers and sellers to where you'll catch a little bit of a break. Let's see. Gold is actually down 0.7% today. 186 price level. Kind of tempting to buy gold. Maybe a gold leaps with some cover calls on the leaps option wouldn't be a bad idea. That's the strategy I was using on it before, but that was also before the Silicon Valley Bank issue, which sent gold skyrocketing. So it is pretty pricey after that. But gold typically does better in a recession. All right. Looks like QQQ wants to keep going up as of right now. 315 almost. What's my name? My name is Greg. Nice to meet you, Luke. All right. Coming up on that 315 level again for the Qs and SPYs at 407. Trading hand in hand with those price levels. QQQ might just want to stick with that 315 price level with the maximum pain point of that. But we'll see. Hopefully we don't burn too much time in this 314, 315 area. But probably will. Apple calls. AAPL. I wouldn't want to be bullish on Apple at 160 personally, but let's see. The high's at 176. Their earnings is going to be deteriorating for the next probably 6 to 18 months. So they're going to see negative growth for earnings and revenue. So long-term Apple calls probably not the best. Short-term you could get a little bit of a rebound, and maybe you could fill the gap up here at 165. Certainly possible if QQQ ends up rallying. Apple would obviously benefit from that. All right, pulling up to 315 for QQQ again. Hanging above 50 RSI. Currently at 59. So QQQ is starting to look bullish here. The Dow is still down 0.25%, and IWM is barely negative at 0.08. So IWM seems to keep on wanting to bounce above 173. Yep. She is wide awake right now. Man, these are going down really quick. 36 cents, 37 cents. And every time QQQ goes above that 315 level, everybody wants to keep on selling it off. So it doesn't seem to be a lot of people wanting to buy. Q is above 315. As of right now, at least. Obviously, that can change. But there seems, at least of right now, to be more selling pressure at 315 than buying pressure. It looks like a double top forming so far. Now SPY is actually down the least of all the indices. IWM's back to 173. Dow is down 0.3, and SPY is only down 0.2. That's unusual. Usually you have one leader, either the Dow or QQQ, but neither of them are leading today. Was it TD Ameritrade or was it the E-Trade, baby? Do I think this market has buying and selling pressure? Yeah, I think that there's not many people wanting to buy Qs above 315 today. So, I mean, like, it's very finicky, I would say, and it changes by like the minute, depending on whatever news ends up coming out. Let's see. Bullard is speaking right now. He just said that inflation going to be sticky going forward. So, I mean, that's kind of what the Fed has been saying, that getting inflation back to 2% is going to be a bumpy road. So that's not really news from Fed Bullard. And then natural gas storage was down 23 billion versus 47 billion. So let's see. Oil is down 0.25% as of right now. Not really changing too much on that report. We have seen a bit of a drop from 80.6, but it seems to be wanting to keep that $80 level for, I think this is Brent crude or light sweet crude, hovering around $80 for ever since the OPEC cuts. It's just been holding 80. I do think that long-term oil is going to come down, like, not long-term, but like the next 6 months probably, with the recession coming along. So if you want to take a short trade on oil, that might not be a bad idea depending on your time frame there. Yeah, I would say algorithms control a lot of the buying and selling. I think it's something along the lines of like 80% or something like that is traded by algorithms. How much trading by algorithms? 60 to 75%, according to the Robust Trader. And this, I think this was from like 2019 or something like that. Oh no, it's actually pretty recent, November 2020. So yeah, there is a lot of algos that are just buying and selling. And I think retail makes up very little of it, and then institutions would be the difference there. Let's see. But QQQ trading at 314.75, so just in the middle of 314.50 and 315. No decisive move yet, but it does seem to be a double top so far here. I would be watching again for 50 RSI. Then you're looking out for the 314 price level to the bottom, and then that 313 level, obviously. But IWM is actually slipping. IWM was actually leading today. It was up like 0.3% on open this morning. And now it's actually pulling back. So now you're going on to the risk off mode for the market, which is pulling everything back with it. And again, we buy up at that 314.50 level. Every 50 cents. Tis a scalper's market. All right. Now we're below 50 RSI, so watch for the 314 level now, and then 313 level is the next one to watch out for SPY to fill that gap, which would be down to 404.35. But we would need some pretty significant selling pressure here for Qs to get back to 313. Let's see if there's any news for Thinkorswim, SPY. Talking about Fed Bullard. Need to stay at it to get inflation back down to 2%. So even with the bad jobless claims this morning, the Fed doesn't care. They told y'all that inflation would go up 1% by the end of the year. So it doesn't really impact where they're going to go with the rates. Says he thinks inflation is going to be sticky going forward. And that's the only two statements that came out of that press release he had. But yeah, now the Dow is down 0.4 and QQQ down 0.5%. So if this rally starts going south for QQQ, today would be definitely bearish. Coming back to retest the 406 level for SPY, and it looked like we bounced on QQQ a little bit. Right above 50 on the RSI. And then IWM might have caught a bounce on 173 again. All right. Well, if QQQ can keep firming up at above 50 on the RSI, I'm going to try to get out of this SPY bearish trade. It almost got down to 314, but not quite there. The MACD is positive for the blue. Starting to ascend a little bit more. All right. Yeah, these are going for 45 now. 43 at the bid. More comments from Bullard. One of the biggest risks for the U.S. economy is that inflation has become entrenched. Also what the Fed has been saying. But basically confirming that they're not going to let off the brakes for higher interest rates. And I think Fed Bullard, he was calling for like 5.6. He was above the median for the federal funds rate in the summary of economic projections, calling for 4.6 by the end of the year, versus the rest of the Fed. The consensus of the median was 4.1%. So Bullard is one of the most, I think he is actually the most hawkish member of the Fed. Either that or Kashkari as of right now. But yeah, each of his comments seems to be pulling the markets back somewhat. I don't think he's a voting member of the Fed, though, so I'm not sure why his comments have so much weight to them, and if that really is what's dragging the market. Back to 314.50 for Qs. So not really moving too much. Right at 50 RSI. So this would be the decision point for bullish or bearish on the Qs today. SPY's down to 406.40 with the Qs below that 314.50 level. Thoughts on the VIX and VVIX? I don't think you can trade VVIX, but this is still hanging up there, interesting enough. Before the Silicon Valley Bank, this was at 74, and it's still at 86. So the VVIX, the volatility of the VIX index, is still very high. I do think that it can go higher, and probably go back to like 100 or so, where it was trading like back here, especially with the new recession fears. The VIX itself, you're not really getting much love out of it as of lately, just because the markets have just been very rangy, not really going up much, not really going down much. Well, I guess they have been going up a lot and then not really pulling back as much. So the VIX probably could stay down, at these $20 levels until we get something really bad for the market. I would think that, all these employment reports coming in would have drove the markets down, but it's more of a rebalancing, I feel like, in the labor market compared to, this steep drop in unemployment, and, an imminent recession. I think that the recession is still a few months out. Until we get more indicators, I think that the VIX could be just trading at these $20 levels, maybe trading below 22 for until we get something that actually shows, yeah, we're going into a recession now. Yeah, we're going to have a hard landing, because the markets have been pitched by the Fed on the soft landing narrative. And once that gets destroyed, then the bulls lose another leg to stand on. Maybe what could spark the VIX in the next couple of months is earnings season. I think that we're going to have banks reporting earnings soon, so that could be that could be what sends us down, what sends the VIX up. Earnings for Bank of America is scheduled for 4/18, so you're still a couple weeks out, but you could see a pop for the VIX around then. Yeah, the VIX, I feel like the VIX is pretty easy to trade options on too. Depending on, if you set your expiration date long enough, or if you could even run the wheel strategy on it whenever the VIX is trading like below 20, and then sell calls for it whenever it's above 30. I feel like that would be like the easiest way to trade the VIX. Obviously, you need like $1,800 of capital, but doesn't seem like a bad strategy considering that the VIX is very, it's just range bound, right? The VIX is always going to trade between about 20 and 30 until, things start to sort themselves out. Then you'll see the VIX coming back down to where it was before. Let's see, maybe before COVID, where it was between like 12 and 20. But I think that we still have a lot of things to kind of clear out before we trade in that 12 to 20 range. Still think there's a lot of risk ahead. So probably going to keep trading in this 20 to 30 range in the meantime. A lot of 40 calls for the VIX expiring 4/21. I know that there was somebody who bought a shit ton of 50-cent call options for the VIX. So that might have been the same person. But basically they bought a bunch of 40 VIX calls for April for 50 cents a pop. I'm not sure how much they're going for now, but I hope they took profits whenever the VIX was at 30, but not sure about that trade. Let's see, April 19th expiration. That 40 call now is going for 5 cents, so that lost like 90% of its value if they didn't sell. Yeah, QQQ just seems to want to keep above that 314.50 level. Now SPY's at 406.40. IWM is slipping 0.4%. These are going for 48.50 cents a piece now. So I'll try to get out of them soon. Hopefully. $52 RSI for QQQ right now. So still managing to be bullish for the 5-minute chart. Oh, that just jumped. SPY pulled back like 25 cents. IWM is below 173 again. So not really seeing too much movement. Even with these down days, I mean, you're only getting like 0.25% or like 0.5%. So that's why you're seeing the VIX still trading below 20 right now. It's a very slow burn as of lately. And that's why I've been choosing these debit spreads that are only like $1 out of the money instead of going, 0.5% or 0.75% whenever the VIX is high. You could do that. You could get away with that, but whenever the VIX is below 20, you can't really get away with that. Surprised these are only trading for 50 cents a piece with SPY at 406.33. Puts have just been very cheap on the 0 data expiration and like short expiration dates. Usually this would be going for like 55 or so whenever the VIX was trading high, but with the VIX low as of late, these puts have just been so cheap, like 10% cheaper than what it would be. Like if you're looking at a similar call option, call debit spread, this would probably be going for like 55. So you're definitely getting a discount for puts right now. But if the markets keep going up, obviously you would lose your money there. Another daily high above 407.25. It could. QQQ is firming up again, so definitely possible. It doesn't seem to want to fall below 50 on the RSI, so that's looking bullish so far. Ever since that bounce on 313. And then IWM bounced at 173 again. All right, I'm gonna try to get out of these at 45. It's going for 41 of the bid. Now QQQ is above 315 again. So yeah, I'm definitely looking bullish here. Could balance a trade with a QQQ called debit spread too, but I would imagine those would be pretty expensive. If we assume Q's to go above 315, you're paying 62 cents for it. So you get about a 1.5 to 1 risk reward here. All right. These are going for 40 at the bid. Got 8 of them. Might have to decrease my ask on it. I want 45, but I might have to manage down to like 43 or so. But every time QQQ hits that 315 level, it just sells right back off. So it's kind of just stuck between a rock and a hard place, 50 RSI and that 315 level. Let's see, 43 each. If I can get 45, that would be ideal, but I don't know if I will. Yeah, those just dropped. Okay. Seems to want to break above that 315 level for Qs. Let's see, the rest of the indices. Dow is still down 0.3. Leading the losses now. IWM is down 0.24. Still trading around that 173 level. I think I might just hold these closer to the end of the day until we can get a definitive move for Qs. This seems to be the start of a move, but again, that 315 level just doesn't seem to want to go above. Every time it keeps on selling. So unless we get a break of that 315 level, keep on holding these spies. All right, retesting the highs for Qs. So yeah, I gotta get out of this now. Down at 40 a piece. Still trading pretty low. So I could have got these a lot cheaper if I had waited. Again, usually if you buy them above 50, it's expensive. But if you can pick them up below 50, usually you get them cheap if you're assuming that it's only going to move $1 in the other direction. It broke the high, but it's not holding up. It is holding the 315 level though. Could come back to retest it later on today. sinking quick now with it breaking that 315 high. Don't need Siri right now. Just have to keep lowering my ask. And my inputs, yes, currently. Assuming below 406 today. It's only $1 off, so certainly possible, but with Qs continuing to go up, that was the reason why I was leaning bearish since it hit that 313 level. I was assuming SPY, if QQQ could come below 313, SPY would go down to like 404, 405. But QQQ had a pretty definitive bounce on 313 this morning. And then it ended up bouncing at about 314.30 or so. Probably set some alerts, see if we go back below that later on today. 314.30. And then for SPY, probably like 406.50 there's some supports around there. That would probably be your equivalent. This one's above 50 RSI, but yeah, it's looking like it's consolidating. Could end up just trading flat today. That 407 price level is where the max pain is, so could end up just trading up and down around that 407 level for the day. Not sure how tight the range would be. Definitely some supports at 406. Resistance, the morning highs was 408 and some change. Yesterday's close was 407.65, so that could definitely be some resistance. And the day before that was 408.60, so you're probably going to have some resistance somewhere in between that at around 408 or so. So if we do end up trading flat today for the rest of the day, I would probably assume between like 405 and 408 would be my guess. The 408 call credit spread's paying pretty good right now. It's trading at 407, so going up another $1 isn't out of bounds. But then if you add in the 405 put credit spread for an iron condor, you get paid an extra $10 for a total of 35 cents. To assume SPY between 405 and 408 by the end of the day with the max paying at 407. I would probably want to go higher with the calls though, just because the 407 max pain is so close. I would want a little bit more wiggle room. But if you ask for that wiggle room with a 409 strike price, you're only going to pay 20 cents instead of 35 now. You could also do an iron butterfly, I guess, at the 407 strike price. Since it's already trading there, you'll probably get more credit. And if you go $2 wide in either direction, it's $127 for $73 in risk. So if you're contemplating between an iron condor and iron butterfly, the iron butterfly is definitely the better risk reward, but less likely to work out because you're pinpointing a single price rather than a range. Yeah. Double top at pre-market highs at 408. It's possible. Doesn't seem too likely, but there was another top at 407.25, so maybe there too. Everything's still down this morning, just not by a lot. So again, any sell-off that you're getting with all this jobs report, you're not getting more than like 0.25% down. Have I checked out Riot? Let's see. I think Riot could be doing pretty well given, the surge in cryptocurrency that we've seen since the start of the year. Yeah, it's already up like 200%. So you've already seen a good rally for it. I do think the caveat to that though is Bitcoin and crypto, it is a risk asset, and going into a recession probably wouldn't be, the wisest thing to hold, right? But then to counter that, with all the inflation that we're seeing, with the devaluation of the dollar, with inflation and because of foreign relations going sour as of lately, you could definitely see Bitcoin continuing to rise with the fall of the dollar. So if you expect the dollar to keep going down, then you expect Bitcoin to rise with it. But again, Bitcoin crypto is a risk asset. I would say very similar to like QQQ. So, you kind of have to balance that out and see which narrative you kind of believe more. I still think that long-term crypto is probably going to be better, like 10 years out. and it's a long-term hold for me. So Riot, probably a good idea long-term, as long as they don't end up capitulating. Let's see. They do post negative earnings. Seems like. So that would be concerning to me. But let's see. Riot, investor relations. Always check the cash flow statement. That's the main thing you want to look for. See how much cash they have and how much cash they're burning. So go to their SEC filings and their latest 10Q or 10K report. So short term, I would say Riot could come down, given that it's already up 200%. It is a risk asset now. But let's see. Cash flow statement. They're actually making income, so that's good. 35. I'm assuming this is in thousands, so that should be 35 million. Right? Let's see. Doesn't say. Doesn't say if that's in thousands. But net income, I'm assuming 35 million. Stock-based compensation was pretty high, which added to their net income. And the net cash provided by operating activities, so their free cash flow was actually negative 45 million. So that's not great. And then let's see. Well, I guess that includes negative Bitcoin mining revenue. I'm not sure why. Well, I guess they're spending to mine. Not sure why they would call that revenue, though. It's kind of weird. And then the net cash and investing activities, 140 million for a lot of deposits on equipment and purchasing property and equipment. Their cash balance at the end of 2022 was $113 million. So they're running pretty low on cash. They had $312 million at the beginning of the year. So that's pretty concerning. If they keep spending the way that they have been, they wouldn't be around for too long, like a couple years. So a little bit worrisome in the short term. Long term, if they can survive, they would do well. All right, Q's is going back to positive for the day. Nearly, at least. Down only 0.05% now. The Dow is still down 0.2. So the Dow is leading the way down. Q's might end up staging a recovery here. We're just keeping SPY up at the moment. The VIX managed down to 0.05%. So the VIX lost all of its gains that it had in the pre-market when it was almost up to 20 again. Every time that it hits roughly 20, it just ends up selling off from there. Can't go above 20 lately. QQQ just breaking even right now, 315.90. So it's probably going to take SPY with it here if it can manage to go positive for today. Do I ever make long butterfly spreads? No, I usually only go short for some butterflies. Just because the risk reward on a long butterfly isn't great. I mean, I was looking at that 404, 40, what was it, 404, 408 or something like that, and it was paying 140 in credit, so that means that I would have to pay a net debit of 140 to make 60. So in my opinion, the risk reward for long butterflies isn't really worth it. Unless you expect a large move, of course. If the move is large enough, then that kind of mitigates your risk of the lower risk reward. It's all kind of a balance, right? The more likely a trade is, the more that you have to risk on it. But there's less perceived risk because it's more likely to work out for you. All right. Looks like QQQ couldn't manage to get positive yet. Down 0.05%. SPY still trading at that 407 level. That pesky 407 level. Probably where we're going to end the day if the market makers get their way. Top mentions on Wall Street bets this morning: SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, QQQ, AMC, Apple, Schwab. Interesting. Schwab is basically breaking even, so I'm not really sure why that would be mentioned so much, but Schwab has been kind of hitting the fan as of lately with the banking mess. Surprisingly, they sold off a lot more than all the other big banks. Not really too sure why. They pose more risk than like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and those names, but definitely hit the worst of all the big banks. Got bought up at 315.50 again for Qs. So this time it might end up breaking even here. The rest of the indices are pulling up slightly. IWM still trading at 173.40, down 0.15, and Dow is down 0.2. So that is regaining some of its losses. It was down like 0.4% this morning for Dow. But very bullish morning so far, surprisingly, after the unemployment report. Not the unemployment, but the jobless claims report this morning. All right. Yeah, we just broke even for Qs, and now it's pulling right on back. But last time it pulled back, I got bought up at 315.50. So we'll see if that's the case. We got support there again. Nope. Seems to want to go higher at 315.50. Just keep on testing these ranges. What a time. Next resistance I have is all the way at 319. I don't think I could take that bullish of a trade. It would probably be cheap though. I'm sure. When was the last time we were trading at 319? yesterday morning. Maybe we could recover like half of yesterday's losses. It's like 317 or so. QQQ. Let's see. Call debit spread expiring today would be 40 cents. It's an okay price for a $1 move. But it just can't break even every time that it tries. I just wish we could make a decisive move this morning, man. These ranges are just killer. IWM might be retesting 173 again. I think that's probably what's holding QQQ back. If you could get a rally out of IWM, the risk on ETF, Russell 2000 small caps, then you could get a rally for QQQ, but I'm just not seeing that as of yet. So maybe a bullish trade for IWM would be better than a QQQ trade, if the markets do want to go risk on IWM. If it could go back to the morning top of 174, how much would we pay? Q's just managed positive 0.05. All right. Call debit spread for IWM is 43. Too much. Too much. But yeah, QQQ is definitely leading everything up now. So you're probably seeing the big names rallying again here. Apple up 0.25. Tesla still negative 0.75. Nvidia 0.2. So you're seeing the big names leading the way, leading the pack up today. So for SPY, that means that's going up with it, since SPY is so concentrated in those high market cap names. Yeah, I wouldn't expect there's a lot of volume coming in today with a short week. But we might actually be triggering up right now, thanks to the Qs regaining 0.1% right now. But yeah, that midpoint of yesterday for Qs definitely seems to be in the cards now. 317 or so, 316.50. Could end up playing out. But I think I'm going to keep on holding this SPY put debit spread as of right now. I think a pullback to 406.50 could be in the cards, and these should be trading for at least less of a loss than what they're going for now. And I'll continue watching the Qs. Probably have some alerts set a little bit higher than what I have. I have 314.30. Probably adjust that to 315. Replace that. I meant 315 flat, but it chose 315.02. And then mid-range yesterday we opened at 318.10. Close the day at 316. So yeah, 317 would be the mark I'm watching for the upside on the Qs. Right now the momentum is definitely up. So testing that 317 mark would be more likely as of right now. But if it starts giving up the momentum, you could see 315. 315 is the mark to look for the maximum pain point, at least at like 9:30 this morning. In the morning it was. So pullback could happen, but 317 could happen first. If people want to chase the momentum. All right. So I got my mark set. Let's watch for SPY. It's already above the mid-range that it was for yesterday. 4,725 or so. And then want to watch IWM at that 173 mark. If it goes below that, that could bring the rest of the market down at or below 173. And then maybe above yesterday's open, which ended up being at 174.25-ish. All right. So I got my alerts set, and I guess that will wrap up trading for the day. I'm going to hold the SPY put debit spread again. I think we could pull back to 405. Not 405. 406.50, which would make these a little bit more valuable to where I can cut my losses a little bit shorter. So, with that said, I'll catch y'all, I think, Monday, as long as it's not a holiday. Is stock market open Monday? Yeah. Should be open. Let's see. Good Friday. It's closed tomorrow. But should be open Monday. So I'll catch y'all 9:30 then. See everybody.